Hey guys, Hal here coming at you with another movie review. Thank you for clicking on this video and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be diving into one of the most highly anticipated films of 2024, NOSFERATU, which is directed by the master of atmospheric horror himself, Robert Eggers, and starring the incredibly talented Bill Skarsgård. Now, this movie actually generated quite a bit of buzz in 2024, and we're going to break it down in this video. We're going to talk about the highs and the lows of the films and discuss what I liked and what I didn't. And we're going to find out if this actually lives up to the iconic status of its predecessor, which was filmed in 1922. So before we get into the nitty-gritty of this film, you have to start with Robert Eggers. As we know from his previous films like The Lighthouse and The Witch, which is just an absolute masterclass of atmospheric tension, he brings that again to the table with NOSFERATU. So the film's visual style is absolutely stunning, and Robert Eggers doesn't just remake this film, he reinvents it for a modern audience, blending his gothic style with a sense of dread. Now, my history with vampire films is not too strong, in all honesty. I've seen Interview with the Vampires, which I thought was okay. I really love The Lost Boys, which is a modern take on vampires. But this old school, gothic kind of vampire film is not usually for me. I've seen the silent movie of NOSFERATU, and I always love those images of Count Orlok, which is again the reason I wanted to see this one. But I can't say that I'm a huge fan of them because I'm not. But I was quite intrigued with this one, and I am glad that I watched it. Robert Eggers has this amazingly haunting tone to this film, and his amazing use of shadows, which we've seen in his previous work, also is very well done. The cinematography I can't knock whatsoever. But going into the actual depths of this film, I certainly have some negatives that we're going to discuss. So as for the story of NOSFERATU, it's pretty much the same as the 1922 version, and more so like a Bram Stoker's Count Dracula. But Robert Eggers, rather than retells the story, he kind of reinvents it. He adds more layers to it. It's at its core a tale of love, an obsession, and a struggle for power. I was a little worried that the story might seem too familiar, but Eggers does kind of do it and film it in a way in which it makes it feel a little bit different, but still keeps it, grounded in its gothic, like horror roots. So the big surprise for me in this film is that Bill Skarsgård is actually playing Count Orlok, and you would bloody never know it because he is absolutely transformed as this character. And we all have seen Skarsgård as Pennywise in It, and he brings that same unsettling yet captivating energy to this role. His take on Orlok is chilling. His physicality, his haunting presence, it all works in making him feel like an ancient evil that has just woken up from its slumber. So as this film is labelled as a horror, we must talk about the horror elements of this film. It is dripping with tension, and you've got this horrible, moody side to this film. Not jump scares or anything like that, which is good. I think it actually could have lingered on a few more things and made it feel a little bit more eerie. It didn't resonate with me like some horror films do. I certainly thought like The Lighthouse had a lot more of a creepy element to it, and The Witch most definitely. There was some quite cool moments in this, but I wouldn't say it necessarily hit me as like a scary film. I mean, some of the imagery is absolutely unsettling. I'll give it that. And for some people, it certainly might get under your skin. I mean, it is helped with the masterclass of the cinematography and set design that makes it feel quite real. It's just, for me, didn't scare me at all. I mean, I think to put a positive on like the horror side of it is that definitely has like a nightmarish quality. But that's about as much as I can give it. Now, one thing I am going to mention, and I'm sure it is done totally on purpose, but I do feel that the pacing is quite slow. Yes, there is moments where they are trying to build tension, but it felt like it dragged a little bit, to be honest, especially if you were expecting a more fast-paced horror experience. There's definitely a couple of standout moments in this film that I did enjoy. And there's one part where Count Orlok has finally moved into the house that he's purchased in this town, and he goes over to the balcony and puts his hand over the village, and it just casts this shadow up until the point where he then, puts this curse pretty much on this house. And when he finally then wants to actually attack, he then turns up at this house, and you see a scene where you can hear all these kids crying in their bedrooms, and then the mum opens the bedroom and he's just got hold of one of the girls, and it's all cast in shadow, so it's not actually that graphic, but you've seen that he's just totally bitten her head and just slumps her to the floor. I mean, that was, it's quite a dark scene, but a very standout moment. Now, although Bill Skarsgård is totally transformed as Count Orlok, I ain't gonna lie, I didn't really like the way in which he looked. I certainly prefer the 1922 version of Nosferatu. He looked a lot more scary in that silent version, in my opinion. Yes, he has like an eerie and chilling aura about him, but he didn't particularly scare me with the look of him. He's got like a moustache, which looks really quite strange. I wasn't even too impressed, actually, when you finally see the reveal once he's got no clothes on. It looked all right, but it didn't, again, send chills down my spine at all. So my overall thoughts on the 2024 version of Nosferatu is that Robert Eggers, once again, shows that he is the master of atmospheric horror, and he can really create an amazing cinematic experience, what with the set design and the tone of the film. Bill Skarsgård as well shows that he can play any kind of unsettling character that you can think of, and his performance is great. Unfortunately for me, the story, the costume, or the actual makeup of Count Orlok for me didn't land, and it left me wanting something else when it actually finished. So, yes, I watched it all, but it did drag slightly in my personal opinion. I'm sure it did very well at the box office, this film, but for me, it's not my favourite of 2024 at all. So that has been my review. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much once again for clicking on this video. If you haven't already, please subscribe, hit the like button, comment in the comment section below, because when this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're going to see some serious